What's up, people? Good beautiful morning. Beautiful morning. My last day in Florida, for now at least. Um, but yeah, I have something. So I was reading a quote from former Nick, and this is going to be another issue of the optimistic Nick fan. And I was reading a quote from Danilo Gallinari, who's talking about that 2010 season. Now, again, Danilo was one of the few good Knicks draft picks. In 2008, we picked him with the eighth pick, I believe. We passed on guys like this was the Derrick Rose draft, right? We passed on guys like Brooke Lopez, Eric Gordon. So in hindsight, even though Brooke Lopez is still in the league, probably had a little bit better career than Danilo. Eric Gordon still kicking around as well, but obviously he was always a fringe player. He's been a six man a lot. Those are the only two guys that I can think of off rip that maybe the Knicks should have taken. But Danilo was a pretty good prospect. Obviously, we know in that 2010-2011 season, famously, that at the trade deadline, that the Knicks made the trade for Carmelo Anthony. Much is to be said about that season that the Knicks were like humming. Look, they were good. They were promising. I would say that they were promising, but this was a season where the Knicks had lost out on the LeBron James street sweepstakes, right? Obviously, Bron, Wade, Bosh, Amari Stoudemire was the head. So the Knicks, in a lot of ways, got a consolation prize. And Amari, to his credit, had an MVP type season. That he was like really good that year, and as we come to know, Amari would be on borrowed time with his knee injury, right? So, it was really time to get the most out of him at signing, right? So the plan was, obviously, since we lost out on LeBron, we didn't get LeBron exactly. The plan was to go to the next best thing, and that would be Carmelo Anthony in the class of 2011, the free agent class of 2011. As we all famously know, Melo was the guy that signed that 5-year extension when the rest of his draft class signed a 4-year extension or something like that, right? With Denver. Again, the idea was, okay, Melo, and again, this is the whole criticism Melo takes, is that Melo was all about the money. Melo just wanted money, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, in this day and age, I find it crazy. In hindsight, and again, Melo is on podcasts to speak on it himself. Melo was never about that super team up shit, bro. And I get it, right? You had the situation where I don't want to get too technical into this because, again, for me, I have to explain things, right? One of the big reasons why the owners and again, I think the owners kind of knocked the players back on their behinds with that CBA, and they knocked, the same way they've kind of knocked, even though the players now, the money that the players are making is ridiculous, but now what they've done in this last CBA is got the player empowerment. Because that's the thing, right? That was the start of player empowerment. I've been debated by, certain clowns on the internet. I won't say no names about how player empowerment, player mobility are two different things. It's all part of it. It's all under the same branch. It really is all under the same branch. And again, that's one thing about me. Make your money. Do what you want to do for your career. I don't fault any player for doing that. I don't fault any player for doing what's best for their career. You understand what I'm saying? Whether you want the money, whether you want to be in a certain market, it's clear that Melo, you can see how he moves. He was all about New York. He was all about the Knicks. Not what his son now is going to the University of Syracuse, following his father's footsteps. Four-star recruit, should have been a McDonald's All-American. Cayenne got game, right? There's nobody that can say Cayenne will be nepotized into anywhere. Syracuse genuinely wanted this four-star recruit. He's generally a player that a team like Syracuse, a school like Syracuse goes after. And I think he'll have a chance to prove his own worth. I think he'll have a good season. I think he might stay 2-3 years and go pro. Let's see. I mean, sky's the limit for that kid. But people don't realize that, again, Melo had famously, coming to New York, married Lala Vasquez, who at the time was his baby mother. And, Melo did not want to be out in the mountains in Denver. He would have if it was necessary. That was his best deal. But he wanted to be in New York. A lot of people don't realize as well. Melo wanted to be a Knick, more than a Net. But he was settled on being a Net, especially if the Nets made the right offer. Then that's what a lot of times when Knicks fans talk about this trade, they don't understand that the Nets were desperate to get a superstar. That's why when you look at hindsight, they gave up more. I'm going to tell you again, they gave up more to get Darren Williams, the next superstar available. And the way those two careers played out in New York, obviously Darren Williams was never that guy. In my opinion, he was good. He was never that guy. Melo was the guy who could potentially vault you to a championship. Now, of course, the Knicks won one playoff series in the Melo era. Melo gets a lot of grief for that. Oh, we gave up too much. We gave up a squad. And that's why I'm going to address the whole Gallinari thing. The Knicks as he makes his statement, right? And again, that's his perspective. You can understand that. New York was happy that they have a team 2 games over 500. But best believe the Knicks were 2 games over 500. On borrowed time with a guy like Amari Stoudemire playing like an MVP for his long season there. There's a nice little lizard on there. Yeah, see, he just saw me with him on the camera, and he ran down. We in Florida, man. At least it ain't an alligator, right? But Melo. You see Melo. Long search to Melo comes to the Knicks. A lot of people really don't remember that trade because what the Knicks got in that trade, the Knicks got former Finals MVP Chauncey Billups. Now, this is 6-7 years after the fact. Chauncey's about 34 years old. Obviously, he's in his last few years. But that's very key because the Knicks could have conceivably kept him. And we wound up amnestying him to get Tyson Chandler. Again, this is sins of the Knicks past because the Knicks situation, if we were going to actually seriously compete, we couldn't have Amari playing center in a D'Antoni style. We needed a real rim protection center. See, what happened under that is the Knicks had a chance to hire a coach after firing Isaiah Thomas in 2009. The Knicks went the way of Mike D'Antoni. They felt that Mike D'Antoni would be the coach who could attract LeBron. Since Kobe loved D'Antoni, right? Kobe was a guy that loved D'Antoni, felt he was an offensive genius, right? That he would attract guys who felt like, and he makes Steve Nash a 2-time MVP. Notice something. He made Nash a 2-time MVP. Kobe felt he was an offensive genius, and Kobe would wind up playing for him the year that Melo had his MVP caliber season in 2013, right? That he would be the attraction And meanwhile, a guy like Mark Jackson, and again, who does not get enough credit, for turning Golden State, a team that didn't even get to a conference final. See, much was made about the Knicks not getting the conference final in 25 years. People don't realize back in 2015 that the Golden State Warriors hadn't got to a conference final in 37 years. The difference between Knicks and the Golden State is in the 25 years, a lot of Hall of Famers didn't walk through that door. Melo being one of the few. We'll see if Amari gets there. I'm trying to think of any other Hall of Famers. Allen Houston's not in the Hall of Fame. Latrell Sprewell's not in the Hall of Fame. Stephon Marbury's not in the Hall of Fame. These are the best players I'm listing over that 25 years. Keep pointing while I'm doing it. These are the best players I'm listing over those 25 years. Golden State had Mitch Richmond, Run TMC, Richmond, Mullen, and Tim Hardaway, Sr. on the same team. Only for 2 years. I get it. Sprewell, obviously the choking, the way his career ended, was Hall of Fame level talent, but didn't make a Hall of Fame. But Mitch Richmond did. For 2 years, they traded Mitch Richmond for Billy Owens. They felt they needed a power forward, right? Next, or small forward, moving Mullen over to power forward. They had Chris Webber. He's in the Hall of Fame. They had how many Hall of Famers walked in the Golden State's door and they never got past the second round? Okay? Rick Barry was the last player to lead Golden State to a championship. But a lot of Hall of Famers walked through their door. And then finally, they turned Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green eventually. David Lee was on that team. He was an all-star. They had a lot. The point I'm making is Golden State had a lot of talent for a lot of years, and that never made it as far as the conference finals in 37 years. And none of that ever got thrown in Golden State Warriors fans' face. And they got a big fan base out there in the Bay, but that was never a national laughing stock. They were never a national laughing stock. And I say this for a reason. Again, we all know that they basically might be the last dynasty a lot of us see for the next 20 years. That same Golden State squad. But the point I'm making now, I'm going back, because all of this comes full circle. The Knicks had a chance to hire Mark Jackson, and the Knicks had a chance to hire Mike D'Antoni. Mark Jackson didn't have the coaching experience. He had coached at no level, right? But he was the number one. He was one of the number one announcers. He basically was in the announce booth, and in that announce booth, and I love it again. I really wish NBC would hire Mark Jackson. He's still doing his podcast. He can do both. He can still make that bag with Cam, doing his show, and shout out to Mark Jackson, and be one of the, definitely be employed. And I don't know if Big Daddy Silver wants him excommunicated out of, but Mark Jackson taught a lot of the game, hand down, man down. Again, might sound like a simple phrase, but no, it really means something, man. It really means something, because he authored one of the best three-point shooting errors but he put defense on that team. See, that was the issue with Golden State. They were a great offensive team for a lot of years. No one ever brought defense into that building. That's why they never got to a conference finals. The Knicks went to a goddamn Don Nelson copycat. Let's keep it a stack. They don't know nothing about the D'Antoni ball that was in from the Don Nelson, which again was Golden State's. Don Nelson was the Golden State. And again, Mark Jackson came and was like, look, you guys played a lot of great offense, high-octane offense, but you never played defense. And that's why you'll never really succeed. So Mark Jackson really kind of a student under the Larry Brown. He played for Larry Brown many, many years. He played for Pat Riley. He played for guys who were defensive. So he picked off those great coaches as their point guard, as their head on the floor, and learned to implement a system that where you could play both offense and defense. That revolutionized the game. And again, he doesn't get enough credit for it. He really doesn't. Because again, one thing is Steph Curry and them. Nobody. This is 2009. Steph Curry's in the league right now. 2011, the lockout season, that was Klay Thompson's rookie year. So really, these guys needed the confidence to become one and 1A or 1 and 2, Batman and Robin type superstars. They could lead a team to a championship, which they eventually did. You understand what I'm saying? And for all intents and purposes, they should have went back to back. But we all know what happened in 2016, the monumental comeback, which I've given, for a guy that hates LeBron so much, I've given LeBron his fair share of credit for, as well as Kyrie Irving. But at the end of the day, this is where, and I make this point, this is where the Knicks need to be on alert to know that, hey, the moves to get to a championship level, I'm gonna turn the what's the name on, so start bubbling. Oh, you're not getting in? Okay, but either way, somebody want to get in to be hot. But the moves need to be made. Now, again, one can debate all day long. Could the Knicks just waited to get that? Could the Knicks just waited? Yeah, possibly. Well, why? See, again, the Knicks really couldn't have just waited to get. The Knicks couldn't have just waited for Melo to walk there, because that wasn't the situation. You understand? That wasn't the situation. The situation was the Knicks needed to take heed that the lockout, no one knew what the lockout, no one knew how long it would take, no one knew if you would have a season. People thought that the whole situation with LeBron and them going to Miami, if it was a lot of owners were mad. They felt like this player empowerment thing coming, and again, Melo would have been a part of that. Melo demanded to be out. I mean, look, the situation, he and Carl never got along. We learned more about that. So he would have stayed in Denver. He would have never necessarily demanded they fire the coach. So again, we're at this point in 2011. Again, it's a pivotal time. And again, the Knicks made the Melo move. Everybody says the Knicks jumped the gun, this and the third. But I was on the point where there was no guarantee that it would be an all season. There was no guarantee there would have been a season. And also, Melo had every ability to extend in the 2011 season, not knowing his future. So once he got to New York, again, this is the idea. Melo wanted his extension before the new CBA. And the CBA was punitive to players because you were able to get less. But coming out of that, we now have because back then you could get 6 years as a max deal, staying with your team, 5 to change teams. Melo wanted to extend before the CBA, that current CBA expired. A lot of people don't know that. And again, it's used the fact, well, Melo wanted money. Goddamn right. He wanted future security. He wanted this generational wealth that would take care of his family for years to come. Like his son is at the time, 4 or 5 years old. The same age as Bryce, right? His son is 4 or 5 years old. Now his son, 15 years later, he was 3 years old. He was less than that. Now his son, 15 years later, is going to college. So the pocket washing, shaming black men, it's disgusting, bro. It really is disgusting. And us as Knicks fans, we need to be, and that's why I'm on this goddamn internet, on this YouTube channel. This is for educational purposes, man. For real. Because a lot of you Knicks fans, I'm sick of fucking arguing with you back and forth and explaining to you what exactly happened. Because you were Knicks fans. A lot of you were in New York. You let the media tell you different stories. Again, long story short, Danilo, the Knicks were 2 games over 500. They were not marching, knocking on the door of contentionship with that group. With you, Raymond Felton, Wilson Chandler, Timothy Mozgov, who wasn't even in the goddamn rotation, okay? So the Knicks had brought back, and I got into this earlier, the Knicks had brought back in that deal, we traded a first-round pick, we did trade a first-round pick, and we made another pick swap. People act like the Knicks traded 5 first-round picks for Melo. We didn't. I've seen worse players than Carmelo Anthony at that point in his career get 5, 6, 7 draft picks. The allegedly or purportedly, the Milwaukee Bucks are asking for 8 first-round draft picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm just saying, he's 31 years old. He'll be 31 later this year, pretty much by the time the next finals. Again, that's still plenty of time to do something with it. But Melo was 25, 26 years old at the time. You have a chance to trade for that guy and secure him. Don't play games and wait, because we did that with Kevin Durant, right? That's the thing about the Kevin Durant situation. When Kevin Durant had a chance to come to New York, and everybody know he wanted to come to New York, it was reported that he wanted to come to New York. He wanted to be in Brooklyn because Durant didn't want the pressure to play for the Knicks. He wanted less pressure to play for Brooklyn and be in New York at the same time. It's a big factor. Because Melo could have said, yeah, you know what? I want to be in New York. Can we Brooklyn? Because, again, at the time it was New Jersey. We all know that the Barclays Center was going to be open, and it was open at the beginning of the 2012-2013 season. So he would have played one more year, that lockout shortened year in New Jersey. Again, he can live in Manhattan, Brooklyn, wherever the hell he wants, and be there to raise his son every day, because Lala wasn't moving out to Denver. She has a career as well. People don't remember that part. They don't remember that part. They don't remember this. But they'll sit there and say the nonsense and how Melo ruined the plan. No, the Knicks ruined the goddamn plan. Because the Knicks could have drafted Jimmy Butler in 2011. The Knicks could have drafted Rudy Gobert in 2013. The Knicks could have drafted Nikola Jokic in 2014. See, it wasn't that. It was the moves that were made. So let me, because I kept going at it. The Knicks got Chauncey Billups, and they gave up Anthony Randolph, probably one of these D'Antoni bums. Maybe they brought an Anthony Randolph back, but they also brought back Corey Brewer. All right. Corey Brewer never played a game for the Knicks. Again, people are going to act like Corey Brewer was the end-all be-all, but no, he wasn't. He was, regardless, one of the best perimeter defenders, 6'8", part of that Florida championship team. They had Noah, David Lee, Big Al Horford and company, right? The back actually won 2. I think they won back-to-back out in Florida. So it's very similar to the Nova boys. You had a group of future pros, future defensive player of the year, long-time players that played on that Florida team. Corey Brewer was a part of that, and Corey Brewer was a useful tool. Mike D'Antoni said, "I'm never going to play this guy, so don't put him on the roster." We listened to a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. If anybody knows me, I'm a big Mike D'Antoni critic. I think he's a hack and a fraud. I think he's just a Don Nelson copycat who can't in-game coach a day in his life. Similar to Tibbs, but much worse. Similar to Tibbs, but much worse. Again, got a system. Shoot the ball in less than 8 seconds. Play high pace. Shoot the ball in less than 8 seconds. That's offensive genius. Keep the pressure on the defense. But playing defense is optional. That's why I never got anywhere past the conference finals. That system, and again, he got the 2 conference finals like Tibbs, that system had its limit. Yeah, it could win regular season games, and yeah, it could potentially have some success in the playoffs. But we don't want to get to a conference finals. We obviously got to get a conference finals if we're going to win shit. We want to keep going. You do that on the backs of guys like Melo, even though he never got past the conference finals, unfortunately, in his career. That's not on him. He never had the right team around him. That's the problem. His Denver failed him. New York failed him, and OKC just at that point, you know. So I just say this to say this because we take this trip down to the memory lane to the Melo deal to understand. If you got a chance to get that guy, you go get that guy. The Knicks were clowned for going after Jalen Brunson, and it turned out Jalen Brunson was a fucking superstar. 29 points a game and 29.6 points per game in the playoffs this year. You win championships on the back of that. I don't want to hear about the 1A, whether a guy like that can be, okay, well, you know what, then go get somebody who can make him a 1A or a number 2 player. If that's the case, then you know what, you're going to do two things. You're either going to run more plays through Karl Anthony Towns and make him your one, or you're just going to run more, you're going to let Brunson be Brunson, improve him where you need to, run a better offense, and make Karl Anthony Towns your very dependable 7-foot number 2. Doesn't matter. Make the fucking moves. Again, we went knowing that Randall was not going to be amenable to a contract extension that we wanted him to take. He wanted it full. Again, he deserves it. I mean, let's see if he goes and get it. He had a nice season. He helped the team to get to the conference finals, just like the Knicks did. Win-win trade, in my opinion. I said it then, and I'll say it now. Win-win trade. Win-win trade. But let's make the moves. The Knicks are right there knocking on the door. Stop with this was good enough. What we had was good enough. No, it was not. That 28-26 team, coached by Mike D'Antoni and his gimmick-ass offense, was not good enough. And then we see the Linsanity shit. I don't even, like, I'm telling you right now, I don't really go over the Lin. Lin, that was a beautiful story. I was proud to be a Knicks fan at that point. Lin was a good player. Lin, that whole Linsanity stuff was, sometimes you got to look at what you have on your bench. This is why I'm happy to see this out of here. Because there's certain guys that you have 15 guys on the roster. The GM puts guys on the roster for a reason. Whether they be great practice players, every player on your roster has to be used, especially in this day and age, especially with this CBA. Every player in your roster must be used, needs to be used. So if you're using him, if they're on the roster, make use of him. Because you never know. Again, look at the two teams. They got guys you never heard of. They play 9, 10, 11 deep sometimes. All right? The two teams in the finals right now go deep into their roster. They develop their roster. They develop their players. Develop your players. You never know what's going to happen. The Knicks gave Glenn an opportunity to cook. He cooked. But what we did is what we always do here in New York. But you forgot who Melo the fuck was? You forgot who Amari was. Lynn, for that great 3-week stretch, that great 2-month stretch, never played at an MVP level, never would again. But he was a nice addition to those guys. And Mike D'Antoni couldn't figure it out. Mike Woodson did. Knicks went 18-6 to finish that season. The Knicks went 54-28 the next year. They started that season 18. So that means Woodson was 36-12 in his first 48 games. And unfortunately, because we went to Phil Jackson run the team route, that set the Knicks back. Because we thought Phil Jackson could adapt and know what a team is. How to run a team. He couldn't. That wasn't his bag. His bag is coaching and psychology and all types of shit like that. So at the end of the day, and I'm about to turn on YouTube for my son. I'm gonna wrap this up. We have a lot to learn from that situation. We have a lot to learn from that Melo trade situation. Okay, a lot to learn. And at the end of the day, let's stop repeating history and let's stop romanticizing seasons where we were 2 games over 500. Okay? Let's get better. Let's grab the bull by the horns. Let's become a team. What the Golden State Warriors game. This is New York. Just do it. Grab it. Pause. But grab the bull by the horns and start winning championships. That's the only way we're gonna do it. Make the moves we need to make. Stop worrying about. Stop being scared of our own shadow. I say this many, many times on this channel in this segment. Stop being scared of our own shadow and become New Yorkers and become the forefront of NBA basketball. Period. Peace, guys.